record now. Perfect. All right. Well, first of all, I wanted to do this quick plug on here because today is May 28th, and May is the National Menstrual Health Awareness Month. Menstruation Health Awareness Month aims to increase period product access, reduce period stigma, normalize period conversation, recognize that menstruation is part of mental health, and increase menstruation education. And specifically today, May 28th, is Menstrual Hygiene Day, and the 28th is symbolic to the imposed 28-day menstrual cycle. So I wanted to plug that in here before we got started on our entire conversation, because this day fits so perfectly to what I advocate for and what else also Erica advocates for, and why we are all here, which is basically related to everything related our menstruation health and our womb health. So didn't want to take it for granted and wanted to show that quickly before we got started.
Awesome. Love it.
Okay. All right. So I will go ahead and introduce myself. I am Jessica Villatoro. My pronouns are she, her. I am a menstrual health activist, founder of Jess Period and the Bloody Academy. I am currently also a part of the project, the PAD Project Ambassador Program. And lastly, most importantly, I am a menstruator. I started speaking about periods and all things menstruation more than 2 years ago, after being frustrated firstly with how the world treats women. And really quickly here, I will speak of the experiences of women of assigned female at birth when I mentioned that, so just being conscious of that. But like I said, of how the world treats women, and how we most of the times have been taught to just deal with what is thrown to us, and without basically no questioning. So this was a way for me to rebel and regain agency of my body, to alleviate one simple aspect that is so personal and so natural. And that is why I created Jess Period, which is a line of handmade menstrual pads that I make here from scratch in my home in California. And this is just a way of having a gentle and comfortable, sustainable period. So our topic for today is conscious, organic, and earth-friendly period products. Before we dive more into this topic, I want to ask Erica, Shanna, or Michelle if any of you were ever asked if you wanted to menstruate.
No.
No,
Been nice if
right?
someone asked, right?
No. So I mean, I don't think anyone in the world that menstruates was asked if they wanted to have a period. So that just makes me wonder why sometimes the world acts if we willingly have decided to have our periods and go through this experience each month. Now, since no one asked us and years of evolution had led us to have this period, we now face a dilemma to have to manage our periods. And I say that with a ton of emphasis on manage, quote unquote. And by the way, I'm a millennial, so I use a lot of the quote unquote. Okay, so the world implies that we need to handle, cope, supervise, administrate, resolve, control our period as if it was an inconvenience. I can bet you $100 that all of us, when we first got our period, we were immediately offered period products to make our period go away and manage it as quickly as possible. Like, that was the first instinct. Like, how do you stop that? How do you not bleed onto your pants? Here are some period products. And not only that, but we were offered the basic 2 period products that we all know that exist. If your parents were traditional, you were offered just the disposable pad. If your parents were a little bit more progressive, you were offered a disposable pad or a disposable tampon. Erica, I'm going to pick on you. Do you recall this type of conversation with your parents? Do you recall that they ever explained how these products works, the materials, or the effects that they could have to you?
I remember the class that they gave us, I want to say it was fifth grade, where they showed us a video and then they sent us home with like a little bag, and in that bag was a pad. And I remember, I think I went home and I showed my mom, but she didn't really like explain what was going to happen because I guess she expected the class to have covered it all.
Yeah.
And so when I started my period, I just remember I told my mom, and it wasn't like an experience of shame for me, thankfully, because I know
Mhm.
that's pretty common. I think my mom was excited with me. I was like, "Yes, I'm finally a woman," and she asked me if I remembered how to put on the pad based on how they showed us in the class, and I did. And then that was it. We never really talked about it after that.
Okay. And I think that's a very similar experience to many. And like you mentioned, some of them do get like that shameful talk, and some of us don't, which is the best expectation, right? And also our parents are just throwing it out there or doing the best they can with whatever they can. And let's recognize that also in the past, this was not a very common topic to talk about. This is now more emerging now, and kind of all of us that are here right now are doing the work to make it even more, if you will, popular and common to talk about freely. So in the past, these type of products were innovative and they were advertised to be the ultimate best option to manage our periods. But now times have progressed and we are in the mindset of questioning what we eat, what we use, and what we put in our bodies. What things are made out of, like is it gluten free? Is it dairy free? Does it have GMO, etc. um, the long-term effects they may have in our bodies. And this is the case for period products too. Um, right now, this topic is very much unexplored and the intention is lacking, but this is a way for us to bring awareness, and we are in the position of questioning and also picking the right product for us to use. So instead of reverting to default and just choosing our products, we want to be able to choose them consciously. It's very easy to walk right now, either Walmart, Target, CVS, um, Walgreens, and then just like see an aisle full of the products. And I say this commonly or frequently. In the United States, we don't have an issue of accessibility because it's convenient. You walk any block and you can see the products and access them quickly. What's becoming an issue in the United States is actually we can't afford them. And if we revert to more eco-friendly options, they become even more expensive. But anyway, um, reverting to that, we now have the option to choose our PETA products. We want to choose them consciously, and they need to be able to be adapted to our lifestyle, and they also need to be safe for us as well. So on my next slide, I am going to talk about the current state of our period products, and I'm talking about common period products that you will find on any regular um, store. So when you go to the store and when you find yourself in the period aisle with many other brands in front of you, it is recommended that you check how these period products are made and what the potential risks they have. So currently, there is a lack of transparency of ingredients in period products. Companies are not required legally to tell us everything they put on our period products. Menstruators are unaware of ingredients in period products, and often studies find harmful materials in tampons and pads. So I'm going to pause here. Let me see if I can find my annotate. Companies are not required legally to tell us if they have, whoops, sorry, I closed my presentation.
All good. Take your time.
I was trying to close the annotation and uh Can we go to desktop 2? Okay, there we go. Companies are not required legally to tell us everything they put on our period products. And that is the regulation that exists right now in the United States. So they are just I guess, cataloged as medical devices type 2. And that means that the FDA trusts fully for these companies to disclose what is in period products, but they are not being audited. And also, it's kind of a free will. They can put whatever they want in their labels. And I will talk about this on a few examples later on the slides, but some companies may use vague language that says mainly manufactured of 100% cotton, but it doesn't say the full story. That's why they use that keyword, like mainly manufactured with 100% cotton, but then you have all of the hidden information. And I mean, if I was a company trying to make profit and I have no regulation, I'm going to maximize that. We would hope that they would have some conscience in them to make things right, but they are for profit, and our government doesn't impose for them to disclose this information. So, what can we find on our period products currently? Fragrances, more commonly because we want to make our periods smell better. Cellulose absorbent materials. This is what actually does the work to absorb your blood. Cotton, in most of the good cases. Rubber, silicone, latex, adhesives, chlorine, PFAs, chemicals. Going back to the chlorine, our pads are white because we literally bleach them, or well, the companies bleach them. It's not because the materials were white. So next time you put a pad on yourself, you will see that it's super duper white because we want to make it more hygienic. We want to manage it. We want to make it pretty, but really the chlorine or the bleach does kind of the negative effect for us. And lastly, I want to note this: vaginal and vulvar tissues are capable of absorbing fluids at a higher rate than skin, which can lead to rapid chemical exposure. And this is basically of why we're having this conversation and why it's important that we make sure that when we choose our products, we're doing it consciously, because all of this is going to be absorbed through our skin. Okay. I want to add an additional plug right here. On the last bullet I mentioned, often studies find harmful materials in tampons and pads. Did any of you saw that last very alarming study actually that said like, oh, there's all of these metals and chemicals in the study? Okay, so I'm gonna say, I'm gonna be honest and play what do they say, abogado del diablo, or devil's advocate, to say that maybe the study was a little bit extreme because it was done in inadequate environments, but also it proved how these studies are very much necessary, but there are very little studies related to women's health, related to anything menstruation. So for example, if you were to try to do a search in the National Library of Medicine, you will only find that there were 400 studies related to menstrual health, as opposed to erectile dysfunction, where there's over 10,000 of studies. So that is really shocking that we are giving all of this focus to this other situation that affects men, but yet something so natural like menstrual health is not being investigated enough. And another thing that I want to say here, I know I'm giving a lot of information and it sounds like very negative, or it might sound like a Debbie Downer or very shocking at once. And that is not the intention at all, to shock you or to say like, oh, all of the products are bad or you shouldn't use them. No, the intention here is to state what is our current state now and be conscious about it next time we go shopping, or the next time we say, well, I'm having cramps, and maybe if I change from tampons to pads, my cramps will reduce. That's the type of conversation and dialogue that we want to create here. Okay. How does this affect you? So this can affect you in this can potentially affect you in multiple ways, but this is not a must, or it's not a guarantee that it's always going to happen. It's like when you take a Tylenol. This can have a secondary effect. It's the same with period products. And chances are it's going to be a least chance, but the risk still exists. And again, it's more for you to make the conscious decisions. So some effects that these ingredients may cause are endocrine disorders, which I will expand a bit shortly. They may cause negative reproductive effects. They may cause period pain. They may even cause heavier periods. And lastly, they may cause skin irritation. Sorry. I want you to notice how I said this may many times, because like I mentioned earlier, it's not a guarantee. We don't know. We are living with a lack of women health studies in general, so we don't know the exact effects. We can only suppose of what we've seen, what we're seeing, what the materials that these products are made out of could potentially cause. And not to mention that during the current administration, we're also seeing censorships of the word gender equality, people with uterus, assigned female at birth, and all of these words that set us a little bit back. So this is why it's important to continue touching these topics as a community. We do have the responsibility within ourselves to keep the topic alive. But going back to the endocrine disorders, and I think this is like the most pressing one. The endocrine disorder is caused when the system is deregulated. So the body has something called the endocrine system, which can help us regulate our hormones. That could be the thyroid, that could be your ovaries, that could be your even how you go to the restroom, like your gut health and all of that. So some of these ingredients can cause these hormones to get out of balance, causing PCOS, hyper or hypothyroidism. And in some cases, even cancer, which is a very, very extreme word. And I intentionally don't want to put this on the slide because it's a sensitive word, and it could be very serious. So while our chances might be low, there's still that possibility. And that is why we want to make sure that you are the sole person choosing the right period product for yourself and make an informed decision. Now, before we move on to what type of period products you can use, replace, and what exists out there, for me, it's very important to emphasize that you do you. You choose the period product that fits your needs and your lifestyle and your budget. Also, you don't have to be tied to one period product. You can try them out, see which one feels better for you, which one adapts to your daily life. You may be a runner who needs a tampon or a menstrual disc, or you may be a program manager who sits regularly and is okay to use period panties. It's really all up to you. Who said that you only have to use one period product during one cycle? I know some of us like do prefer like only pad or only tampon or only period panties or things like that, but sometimes it's okay to mix and match, and you're not married to these products or these brands. You can seriously continue trying. For example, on my case, I use reusable pads for the most part, but when my period is on its last days, I use period panties because I chose to go fully reusable products only, and that's my mix. So I upfront use reusable pads, and then towards the end of the days, period panties, and that's a good mix for me. Okay. All right. Before choosing your next period product, I want you to reflect on the following questions. And Erica, I will share this list with you, and maybe you can plug it on the YouTube description. All right. Which period product better supports your lifestyle? Do you want to choose disposable or reusable? What does your day-to-day look like? How often do you need to change? Is it I don't know, for example, if you were an Olympic swimmer, does it really make sense for you to use period panties? Those are the kind of questions that you could ask yourselves. Are you running from I don't know, from building to building? Do you work downtown? Does it really make sense for you to go fully reusable, or is it better to go disposable? It's up to you. What is your flow level? And this is very, very relevant, especially because you want to make sure that you're maximizing your period product. I said this earlier, period products here in the US are accessible, but they are very expensive. So you want to get your worth. And what I mean by that is don't exceed the 8 or 12 hours that it advertised. It just means that you want to make sure that you are not leaking with that one period product. I saw a question. Oh, thank you, Shauna. I was saying, you want to make sure you get your money's worth for what you're buying. So instead of just like continuing using the same product that you're using, why don't you try switching out the brand, switching out the product. Moving on to number 3, how much comfort do you want? Is comfort really relevant for you? Are you okay with maybe, I don't know, full 100% cotton tampons? And I say that just because 100% cotton tampons might be a little bit more rigid. It's just an example. Does the plastic bother you? Do you have sensitivity? Is it causing chafing? Number 4, what potential health benefits will you gain if you change this product? Number 5, are you allergic to any of the ingredients? For example, I know some people that when we talk about latex, they're allergic to latex. Not that period products have that, but those are the type of questions you want to consider. Number 6, very important. What is your budget? We all know that period products are not cheap, and also the safer we get into the period products, it usually tends to be pricier. When we compare reusable products, they do require an upfront investment, but in the long run, it turns out to be cheaper, especially if you're a heavy bleeder. And I do have a comparison tab that we'll go over shortly. Now, if you are moving on to number 7, if you are one to watch your footprint and want to make earth conscious choices, you also might want to consider and look out for the environment and the impact of your product, whether it's a single use or what's the life cycle. For example, there are some menstrual cups that last like 10 years. If we want to go even deeper, who manufactures the period product? Where is it made? How does the company give back? And all of this information. All right. So on my next slide, I want to show you, now that you've thought about this and reflected, here are some options if you wanted to go fully on reusable. So if you are a tampon menstruator, your options would be either a menstrual cup or a menstrual disc, and that is for an internal use. And then if you are a pad user, your options would be either a period underwear or a reusable pad, and that would be external. not everyone can insert something in their vagina, so I do want to call that out, because sometimes people say like, oh well, why do you use reusable pads, or why do you use period underwear, or why don't you just use a cup? Not everybody can have that luxury of being able to insert in something in their vagina. For example, myself, I was never taught how to use a tampon. My best friend taught me how to use a tampon, but even still then, I never got like the rhythm of it. And now I just don't want to try. I'm very comfortable using reusables. So but yeah, like some of us don't want to, and or just some people just can't. Um, all right. Okay, moving on to the type of materials that our period product has. So, cotton is queen. When looking for safer options, cotton is queen. Whatever is made out of cotton is going to be healthier. But like I said earlier, cotton means a little bit more rigid, but that's okay. As everything, you will have a learning curve, and then as time goes, you will adequate to it. So here are a few recommendations for internal and external products. So if you wanted to go full on better, healthier option, cotton cloth pads, cotton tampons, cotton pads, or cotton period panties. And then if you use the menstrual cup or the menstrual disc, you want to make sure that that is a medical grade silicone. And usually I find that menstrual cups and menstrual disc are more transparent on what their period products are made than tampons or pads. So you will be able to see that. Some of them say rubber, stay away from rubber. It's rather medical grade silicone. Okay. And then I have here a slide of some options of or organic options, I should say, that we are seeing. Of course, now we have an emerging variety, which I'm very happy for. Why? Because in the past we had that very common brand that we all know and that we all have used. And now we have these emerging brands that are coming into play, that have better options, that are doing a better work, that are being more transparent. So a few of them are Flex, Cora, Real, 7th generation. Actually, I just learned that one while trying to do this presentation. Salt, Isle, the Diva Cup, Nixit. Nixit, by the way, I think is Canadian and is female owned. Same Honeypot. Lola, August. August is also female founder. Jess Period, also female founder. Real, sorry, I have Real here twice because this is the disposable and this is the reusable. And then lastly, L. So these are brands that you can take a look at once you're in the aisle. I know it's very easy to just like walk in and only see maybe Always or Kotex, but get curious and maybe pick one of these up and then turn the label around and read if this is maybe a good option for you. Okay. And I want to talk to you now about the pricing. So I did warn you earlier that the more organic or reusable option you change into, the more expensive it's going to get. So we have a variety here of prices. Obviously, the disposable pad and the disposable tampon are the cheapest, with some of them being 32 cents each or 27 cents each. And these usually can only be used as a single use, and they last approximately 8 hours, or according to what the label specifies. I don't think it even goes more than 12 hours. At 12 hours, I think the recommendation is only 8 hours. So check that out. Or some organic pads, this is where you see like that little increase from 32 to 47. Same for the tampon, you see the 27 cents, then it jumps to the 55 cents when you go more organic. And then when you move completely to all of the reusable options, there is a big jump, right? For example, the menstrual cup, $29, the menstrual disc, $35. the period underwear, $15, a reusable pad, $14. But then you also see that the lifespan expands. So where you're really getting that worth is on the menstrual cup and the menstrual disc, because many of them can last up to 10 years. Though companies like Salt would advertise like continue monitoring your menstrual cup or your menstrual disc if it doesn't look that it has that it like if it has cuts or if like it's already chipping off, it's probably a good time to change it. The up to 10 years is like a recommendation, and obviously it just depends a lot on how you take care of your period products. So something to keep in mind. If you're also a heavy bleeder and you also want to go a little bit more organic and more conscious of the products that you are using, I want to say that yes, up front you will have a big investment or a higher investment, but on the longer run, when you compare it of the pricing of buying disposables, it either turns out very similar or even savings, especially if you're a person who is double stacking. And by double stacking, I mean you combine two products at the same time because your flow is just too much. And then I have this mix and match slide for recommendation. If you are that double stacker and you have to use two products at a time, here are some ways to feel more protected, but also to save money. So I have 6 options here. So that's the first one is combining a disposable and a reusable. So I'm using a tampon and a period panty, or a tampon and a reusable pad. And then we go fully reusable, where it's a combination of menstrual disc and reusable pad, or menstrual cup and period panty, or menstrual disc and reusable pad, and lastly, menstrual disc or period panties. Or if you're like me and sometimes like to free bleed, which literally means free bleeding, go for it. Get your freak on. I sometimes do enjoy to just bleed as it is. I know we all have like our granny panties that we just pull out when we have our periods. So that's me. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't care. I'm at home. I'm just gonna let it bleed, and I'm like on my very old pajamas. It doesn't matter if it gets stained. And also I do have to say that I have a good husband that supports me and that like lets me be in. He knows that like I'm just free bleeding, and that's fine too, you know, like we just gonna let it flow out. It's natural. Okay. Lastly, before we close up, I wanted to invite everybody to reframe how we speak about periods. Society tells us that the best period is the period that is unseen, unheard, unnoticed, and well hidden. But who really benefits from that? So the next time there's a period conversation happening, I want to invite you to budge in and speak loud. Specifically, if your period is causing you an issue, if you are a heavy bleeder, if you have period pain, if you suffer through endo, fibroids, your uterus is inverted, anything related to that, I really invite you to budge in into that conversation and call it out. So here are a few ways to reframe how we speak. So instead of saying, manage your period, say, live your period. Instead of saying menstrual hygiene, say menstrual health. Instead of saying feminine products, say menstrual products. Instead of only focusing on one gender or saying mom helps me with my period, maybe my parents support me in my period journey. And that is all I have for all of you today. And if you wanted to stay in touch, my website is jessperiod.com and my Instagram is at jessperiod_. That's it.
Yay! Thank you so much, Jess. That was awesome, super informative. Michelle, do you have any questions for Jess?
No, guys, no any questions. Just to say thank you for giving us this space. I mean, where we can learn about us and then share our information. And I don't know. Thank you guys for this.
Yes, of course. It is absolutely our pleasure. I'll be sending a follow-up email with the link to the recorded webinar as well as Jess's information if you'd like to reach out for more info or just shop her products. I am a huge fan. I'm currently wearing one because it's like day 3 of my period, so I still need some support.
That is amazing.
They are life-changing, super soft. It really doesn't bother me when I wear them. I don't feel, you know how it feels when you wear nails. So huge fan. And then yes, I am trying to do Womb Wellness Wednesday webinars several times every month. So the next Womb Wellness Wednesday will be next week. So hopefully I'll see you in there too, Michelle. Thank you for joining us.
Sure, sure. Thank you, guys.
Have a good
Thank you,
night.
Michelle.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye. All right, amiga, I'm gonna stop recording.